Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Practical Permaculture Podcast. So, how have we all been this week? I put a little question up in our Facebook community group. Jump on there if you haven't already. Everyone's sharing their gardens, what they've been up to. Some of our regular listeners were showing how they're heating their houses during the winter. Some really cool ideas in there. So I'd love for you to join us. It's a really cool space to be. Lots of chats happening between community members. It's the Practical Permaculture community on Facebook. To be completely honest, we've had a bit of a low week here at Practical Permaculture HQ. We are dealing with banks. It's not fun. We are talking to them about trying to get our loan over the line, and it's just been one thing after another. And unfortunately, they hold all the power. So, yes, it's been a testing week for us. We haven't had a lot going on besides that. A lot of our energy's been channeled into that. We've also had still some more sick kids and Mother's Day activities at the school. So, yeah, we've had the last of our dahlias pop up and we've been enjoying them as cut flowers. We've also had some Asian greens that have all grown and we've been using them, which has been lovely to get some more produce back out. Since our summer garden finished, our beans are all coming on, so that's been great. I really need to figure out how to harvest my Jerusalem artichokes. I Googled it and some people just said they left theirs in the ground until they needed it and dug it up. So I'm not quite sure whether to harvest them all at once and store them or to just dig them up as I need. If anybody knows, that would be great. Send me a message or hit me up in the comments below. But besides that, things have been pretty quiet here. This week, I've got on Pascale and Troy. So they used to have an account on YouTube called Free Range Sailing, and they sailed the world in a little yacht. And then they decided to test out some land living, and now they have their YouTube called Free Range Living. Since then, they've had a child and they've got another one on the way. They are caretaking some land in southwest WA. Really cool opportunity they were given by a viewer actually from their YouTube, and they are regenerating that land using animals, and they're putting into place some permaculture principles in their garden beds and just regenerating the land in general. Take a listen. They have a wealth of knowledge. There's heaps of learning to be had on their YouTube. Pascal's an amazing cook. She preserves and stores a lot of their food. What they're doing there is just really, really cool, really inspiring. So jump on their YouTube and have a look. I also wanted to tell you about this season's sponsor. The Botanical Bazaar is sponsoring the podcast for this season. The Botanical Bazaar is a gardening and sustainable living festival that is held on the Gold Coast, Nerang. This year it's on the 2nd and 3rd of August, and I will be there doing an Instagram takeover on the day to show everybody what it's all about. However, I would love for you to join me. Come, hang out with me on the day. If you're interested about learning more about what the Botanical Bazaar is or want to book your ticket, jump to the link in the show notes now. That's it from me. Here's the chat with Troy and Pascale. Welcome to the Practical Permaculture Podcast, your weekly dose of gardening, intentional living, and all things permaculture, served with a side of fun and plenty of great conversations. I'm your host, Alysse, and together we'll dig into practical tips, chat with experts, and explore ways to cultivate a more abundant, sustainable life. Let's get growing. Hello and welcome, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for saying yes. I'm so excited to hear from you guys. I first kind of found you guys through Joe. So Joe used to host the podcast with me, and it was a rainy day and we were watching your sourdough video, actually, Troy, how to do sourdough. So
You'll completely understand if I just jump up and go and turn another sourdough off.
totally, yeah, go for it. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
So I guess for people who don't know who you guys already are, do you want to tell us a bit about who you are and your context and a bit about your story, I guess?
Yeah.
So if people want to know more about us, they can go and see Free Range Sailing. We won't go on at length because I could. But we were just sailing around Australia, and we gathered a pretty fair following, about 138,000 people when we were sailing. And in that audience, there were some people that had a farm that was in the southwest here in the Western Australia. It was becoming run down, and we agreed to just become caretakers. And we can talk with you a little bit about the opportunities and the pitfalls of that, because with people ageing out in the country, there might be some caretaker roles that people can get land under their control, but we might have some insights.
Yeah. I come from a caravanning background, so it's the same kind of thing. Like a lot of caravanners take on caretaking roles. But I found it really interesting because from a caravanning perspective, you just kind of up there on the land. But, you guys have put a lot into the property as well. And you've got animals and all that kind of thing and the infrastructure. So I'm interested in that. Like, how did you make the decisions to get things when it's not permanent necessarily? Or like, was that in the back of your head when you were making some of those decisions?
Everything all at once.
Yeah.
Because we weren't sure of how much time we had. There's that Silicon Valley thing, fail fast. So we were just like, let's just try a whole bunch of things and see what suits our abilities and temperament.
Yeah. And what can we do that is going to, be the minimal cost, but have an impact and get to experiment with what we were interested in. For a bit of context, we were sailing around Australia in a very small boat, like a caravan-sized boat.
Yeah.
And
smaller.
Yeah,
looks small.
A caravan. And
10 metres or 30
we
foot.
did that for 7 years, and we documented that on YouTube under free range sailing. And then we needed to take some time off on land. We wanted to start a family, and that's when this opportunity arose with people that followed us on YouTube.
So cool.
To us, which was very, very cool.
Yeah.
And so we were sort of, I think the kind of seed was sown. I mean, we've always been interested in like permaculture and gardening and livestock and animals, and that's just something you can't really do when you live on a yacht. Because we were living on a yacht because we also enjoyed the adventure and the freedom.
We like being self-reliant.
Self-reliance, yeah. So I guess that's the thing that is continuous in our life, but to try and be as self-reliant as possible has been a key feature of like what we do.
Yeah.
And also being as much in control of the food that we eat.
I think that's a real key element as well is we're not vegan, we're not vegetarian, we're not strictly anything, but we don't want to eat cruelty.
Yeah.
So, there's questions that we have about the way that animal food is raised, and we have questions about some of the deferred or hidden costs of plant-based agriculture as well.
Yeah. So that's something that we've always sort of been aware of. And then when we were living in Tasmania, fixing our boat up 5 years ago now, that was 2 years before we stopped sailing, we decided that we probably we were starting to think about having some time on land, just to have a go at farming ourselves, looking after ourselves on land. Yeah.
And you've done amazing at your property. Like there's so much knowledge, I'm sure, and lessons you would have learnt in the, how long's it been now? 2 or 3 years?
It's been 3 years actually. It's been 3 years, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow. Totally amazing. For people who haven't seen your YouTube, what animals have you got there at the moment?
We've toned it down now. We've got about 39 chickens because we just put 15 in the freezer.
I love it. Toned it down. 39, just 39 chickens.
We had a pretty massive spring in terms of chicken breeding.
Yeah, so Troy says we've got 39 chickens. Only 3 of them are adult chickens. So a lot of our chickens had babies this year. So two of them alone had 19. So
wow.
Yeah. They're pretty good mums, our chickens. They must be pretty happy.
Pascale's milking 2 goats and we've got 1 kid left. So we found homes for 3 of the kids. Mm-hmm. So we've got 3 goats, San and dairy goats.
Yep.
I was milking our Jersey cow, but now I've stopped that and she's just continuing to raise next year's beef.
Oh, this is beef probably.
We've got a pretty amazing Charolais Jersey cross calf out there that looks like it's come out of an Indian temple. It's just in such good it's just been living on like probably the best hay I can source. We had a really good flush of growth. We'll talk about the pigs in a bit, but the paddock put forth really good pasture this year.
Yeah.
So the calf's just been getting super, super fat.
And then she's still drinking milk in the morning from her
Yeah,
mum.
right. Yeah.
The poor mum is walking around all skin and bones like most Jersey cows. And I think she's just producing milk and the calf is drinking it. So.
Yeah. But we're coming into winter and this thing's still got a gloss on it.
So yeah. She's really shiny.
She's pretty incredible. 2 cats.
Oh, yeah, 2 cats, a dog. We now have some goldfish.
Love it.
Yeah, and
I think that's it.
And you've toyed around with other animals too. Like you guys had rabbits at one point, didn't you?
Yes, we really wanted rabbits to work, and it just didn't really work out. Khaleesi virus is like pretty prevalent here in WA. I don't know if it's the same in the eastern states, but
I don't know. I don't have a lot to do with our animals because we lived in a caravan for 2 years and we've been on this block, but it's kind of still, it's an acre and a half, so it's not big enough to kind of have a lot of livestock on. So I'm not an expert in that field, but we'd love to get something, and it'd be cool to get more land and have more, but we're kind of dipping our toes in as well.
Have you got chickens yet?
No, we've only been here for a year. We lived in a caravan for a while, so we're just kind of slowly getting our house built. That's kind of the first project. But we'd love to get chickens. There's like a rehoming place here where you can just kind of get them, and so as soon as we have the infrastructure, we'll just get some of those chickens, and that'll be our starting point, and then see how we go.
We did find with the chickens that through the spring, we found just free ranging them was really great because they fed themselves, and any grain that would have fallen through the cracks with our picky goats, any waste food was picked up by the chickens. We didn't feed them through summer and spring.
Yeah,
cool.
But what we did find, the free ranging thing, the downfall is that chickens like to be close to us, which means there's lots of chicken poo.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to train our dogs really well too, because our dogs aren't used to having animals around. We have a lot of snakes here too, and I feel like that could be an issue with like full free ranging our chickens. I'm not sure. So.
I think the chickens will deal with the snakes. I think they'll actually dissuade snakes from coming.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Even if there's eggs, I mean, you have to obviously get them regularly so that they're not kind of encouraging the snakes to come.
What snakes are you talking about?
Well, it's all bushland around where we live, so lots of like carpet pythons and things like that.
Billy McLean.
Oh, pythons, yeah. I was going to say, because I was thinking that you'd be worried about poisonous snakes, but pythons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just have poisonous ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
easy to deal with snakes.
I love it. So how did you first start introducing the animals, I guess? Because that's like a big part of what you guys do there.
I read up on Alan Savory's, who would be a Joel Salatin. He would have influenced Joel Salatin quite heavily. So I went straight to the source there and went to Alan Savory's work, and he's a proponent of animal impact, controlled, trying to replicate herbivores being controlled by predators to renovate land. And so we wanted maximum impact on, we had a problem weed here called Guildford grass, which has a subterranean bulb. So you can take the top off and it'll just re-sprout.
Yeah, like onion grass.
It's onion grass.
It's onion grass.
Yeah.
So we just ran pigs using electric fence to really heavily contain them. And they just demolished it. Like they dug up those bulbs, they seeped them out, and they actually put condition on pretty well with it.
Yeah, cool.
And what they left, the parrots came down and cracked and ate. And so by moving the pigs through, all of the food that we imported in to feed the pigs, which cost us money, went through the pigs and became fertiliser.
Yeah.
So we fertilised our paddock and got rid of that noxious weed. It's sort of, in one step. So we did have some neighbours going, oh, you want to use glyphosate and you want to fertilise and you want to do all these things. We were just like...
Add all these amendments, to get rid of the onion grass.
We might just use... we took it on board, but we were just like, can we just try this first?
Yeah, why not?
It worked really, really well. To the, like a neighbour came over and he was like, that was amazing. I'm not sure we've converted anyone because it is harder than just spraying with glyphosate and spreading amendments behind a tractor. It's fun, and we got a lot of good charcuterie out of it.
How long did it take from when you got them to when you saw like it was really impacting and it made a big difference for the onion grass?
Oh, well, we put them on like the farm rubbish chips first, and they uncovered a lot of stuff. And they sort of improved that. And then as soon as you move the pigs on and water hits where they've been, you see an immediate improvement, because we did seed, like we threw seed down afterwards, and we harrowed it in. We bought a little tractor, and we harrowed it in, and it worked out really well, and that sprouted. But in other parts, the pigs' disturbance actually got some of the seed bank that was just waiting for disturbance, and it just sprouted. So I think Guildford grass relies on a lack of disturbance, and then it dominates and takes over, and all those dormant seeds never get a chance to really be upset by animal vibration or being exposed and then buried and all, whatever kicks off plant embryos. I'm not 100%.
Yeah. Yep.
But we saw immediate effect. Like the very next year, the pastures were viable for us to get a ruminant.
Yeah. And that's when we got our cow.
Yeah. So
hang on, we had the pigs for like nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
And we got the cow March last year. Yeah. 2 years.
Because we were only running 5 pigs, and it's 9 acres, so it took a while. And in the summertime, we confined them. That we got a boar in, and they had piglets, so we couldn't really move them because the piglets they got no respect for the electric fence that can contain a full size pig. They just run under it.
Yeah, so that was the thing. We got our pigs.
I'm just going to get my sourdough, and I'll be back.
Yeah,
you're right.
We got our pigs quite young, and we kind of had them in that holding area that used to be the old sort of dumping site on this property.
Yeah.
Had them there, and we had them trained. We were training them to electric fence. They actually knew about electric fence anyway. That was really fortunate. The property that we bought them off, they were using electric fence to contain them, but pigs really don't like electric fence. So I guess, we had to do a bit of learning on that, more so Troy than I. But, that was actually not too complicated, keeping them contained. But also they're very tame pigs. Like if you've been feeding them for a few weeks, they know about a bucket of food, and they'll just follow you around for a bucket of food. So, especially if you get in there and scratch them every day, and they're like really, they're really cute.
Dogs.
They're really fun to run around.
They're just like big dogs that aren't hairy.
Yeah, pretty much. They're just greedy. As they get older and bigger, it was a little bit more difficult. They're still following us, but it was sort of like they get a bit more pushy and stuff like that. But that's around the time that you got to think about, well, what are we going to do with these pigs? Are we going to breed, or are we going to put them in the freezer? So for us, pork farming is pig farming is pretty bad in Australia, and it's pretty hard to find like pasture raised pigs that have been fed like good quality food, that have been out on grass. I mean, it is around, but we just thought, we love pork, but we really we want to eat ethical pork. So it's kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone, being able to regenerate the pasture with the pigs and then also end up with really good quality meat afterwards.
Yeah. And there it is. There's the sound there.
We're also really interested in old-timey preservation methods, charcuterie and things like that. So you can't really do a lot of the things we wanted to do just buying pork from a butcher. So you have to have the animal yourself and process it yourself.
Yeah.
And do all of those things yourself.
So how many did you process and how many did you keep?
So we had 3, I think we had 3 generations of pigs on the farm. So we started with 5, and then we kept, I'm trying to remember. We kept one.
So we got the initial pigs.
Yeah.
And then
they all
two were eaten, and then there was 3 sows, and we lent a boar.
Yes.
The boar came to stay, and they all had piglets. And then we sold some, which just covers food. You're not making any money out of breeding.
Selling piglets,
Not at this scale. Yeah. And then we ran another boar over one of the sows that Pascale really liked, one of the originals we kept, one of the ones that I really liked. And that one of the offspring boar from one of the other mums, we ran over them. And then we kept some of those piglets. And now, in fact, that boar and Pascale's absolute favourite
She's a really good
is
mum.
living in retirement in the next town over.
Well, they're not. They're still breeding, aren't they? But they're not really working the property or anything like that.
Well, I say retirement just because they didn't get eaten.
Yeah. So yeah, our sow that we had at the end, they got sold off, and then we had a couple of their offspring left that we ended up processing for our wedding. That were the last 2 pigs.
Yeah, that's right.
Last year.
We kept two. We kept 2 that I didn't particularly want to sell, and then we just fattened them up. So when we got married, we wanted to provide as much as we could for our guests by our own hands.
So cool.
Yeah, we were able to feed about 100 people with 2 pigs. Some of our some of my new family, Pascale's family, provided some lambs. Some friends brewed some beer, and I brewed about 50 litres of cider.
Yeah.
And
so cool, guys. Amazing. My granddad's a butcher and does small goods. So when he immigrated from Croatia, he brought all those kind of recipes and everything.
Cool.
Yeah, so I grew up with like eating sausages with real casings, and I remember going to friends' houses as a teenager and being like, what is this sausage? Like, this is disgusting. And just like, you know what I mean? Like when you taste real meat and like what proper, small goods are like, and then you have, commercially, produced, mass-produced sausages. They're just so different. He actually, I don't know the whole story. I should actually ask him about it. But he helped change the food laws in Australia because they were trying to make sausages a certain percentage fat. And he took them to court and was like, nope, this is how much meat I'm going to have in my sausage. And yeah, he helped.
Were they trying to reduce the fat or something like that?
I think they were trying to increase it so there was less like meat in it, so they could have like other stuff like
fillers.
fat and fillings and everything in there. Yeah. So I just grew up like working in the butchery and having all this meat drying, and I'd love to learn like how to do it myself more. And I watched one episode when you first started doing it, and I was like, yes, like I need to learn how to do this. And
you can totally do it.
Yeah, it's actually like really achievable.
Yeah, cool. Where did you learn?
We just read lots of books. The River Cottage books are really, really good.
Yeah, okay.
They've been amazing. And then there's a couple of charcuterie books.
Yeah.
Past of American guys that went to Italy, American chefs that went to Italy and kind of broke it down for to basics for, just for your ordinary cook kind of thing.
Yeah, but making these things is like on farm and peasant skills. This is not like the mental elite came up with preserving food.
Yeah.
Charcuterie, so it's
a lot of meat when you harvest a pig, and so if you don't have a whole lot of freezers, then you have to know these things, I suppose. Otherwise,
a lot of it is just salt and time.
Yeah.
Is charcuterie.
Things get a bit more complicated when you're making salamis, and we learned that.
Right.
But yeah, we're sort of getting better at salamis now.
Yeah, cool.
We've stopped having pigs.
And same with the goat milk. Like you guys have had to learn how to use and store that as well, because there's only so much milk you can actually drink and use in cakes and recipes and whatnot.
Yogurt is a good one.
Yeah, so goat milk, I've got a bit of a system now. I milk every day, and we get anywhere between 3 and 4 litres. And so often, we'll probably drink and use for cooking maybe 10 litres a week, and then the rest is getting turned into yogurt, cheese, kefir, and that keeps us going. And if there's any left over or anything that goes sour, after about a week it goes sour, or 5 days, that just goes to the pets.
Yeah.
Or you can leave it out for a week and clabber it and then give it to the chickens. So nothing really goes to waste when you have a dairy animal. It was really great when we had pigs. I mean, if you had excess milk and all the whey, so with the cheese making, you end up with a lot of whey. Yeah. The cheese is probably a fifth of what's in the milk. Yeah. So we've actually just been pouring that on the garden lately, or putting little bits in the worm farm. But before that, we were giving it to the pigs because they really love it. It's really sweet. We were soaking their grain in it, and they just loved it. So yeah.
I think that's an achievable livestock. If you got a little pig, if you had garden excess or whatever, our pigs took care of, I think, they could have handled 3 households worth of waste
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, really good.
So yeah, a pig, because my neighbour, he was fattening up a pig, and he was able to source a little bit of food off farm for his pigs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to be careful with pigs. There are food regulations in Australia. Like if it's been in a human kitchen or whatever, commercially, then you can't feed them and stuff like that. But
yeah, we were feeding our pigs a lot on waste apples.
Yes, I saw that.
Because we're in a primary production area, like for fruit and veg. It's one of the main areas for fruit production in Western Australia.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, and there's apple packing sheds are right 5 minutes in town. And there's just a lot of apples that get rejected for whatever reason, but they're perfectly good, especially for pigs. So
and goats and cows.
And goats and cows. So that's been really good.
So what were some of the other goals around your animals and like working them with the property and integrating them into what you're doing there?
Well, when we first moved here, we had quite a lot of blackberry. That was a real issue. And we thought straight away about getting goats. We weren't sure about whether we'd get dairy goats or just boer goats. In the end, we opted for dairy goats. And they've actually done a really amazing job. We free-ranged those goats. The adults now respect electric fence. It's taken a long time to train them to that. They're not like pigs. So we have been able to sort of put wire around the garden. So our vegetable garden is separate, fenced to stop chickens getting in, and then we've been able to add electric wire around that to stop the goats and sometimes the cows, if we have them out the back of the yard, stop them getting in.
Yeah.
So the goats have actually done a really good job of managing the blackberry and also some of the thistle on the block. And some of the other undesirable weeds.
It's another food source for them, they may
it. We did have to disturb the blackberry a bit, like where it was really thick, we just ripped it out. And then now, so they just manage the regrowth. Like everything is just complete, all the blackberry on the property is completely stunted. So if any new bits pop up, they just nibble it away. If we left and took the goats with us, I guess it would come back. Like crazy, but just having the goats here all the time and just walking around with them on the property, they just keep it under control. So that's been really cool because everybody else here just uses glyphosate to get rid of their blackberry and their thistle. So yeah, it's been cool to say like we don't actually spray it. We don't have to spray it.
And, cool. And it looks like goats are at least as effective because glyphosate, the blackberry comes back from it. So.
From glyphosate, yeah.
And that's the thing with all of those other things. You need to constantly be doing it, otherwise they will come back. Yeah. And the cow, was that mainly for milk or was that for your pastures?
The cow was for milk, but the goats are just so much easier, and they give like the cow has the potential to do a lot more milk. But when I was milking her, she didn't want to give up that cream at the end. She wanted to keep it for a calf. To the point, she'd never try and kick me or hurt me or anything, but she'd like lift her tail, she'd wee everywhere, she'd put.
She was unimpressed.
She'd just be so. If I took more than my bucket and I was trying to get that cream, then she'd start to really make an emotion.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, fine, okay. And I thought, oh well, the compensation is like I could see that calf growing. It was like this thing just looks amazing, and I knew we were going to get. Like prime beef out of it. So we just let the cow grow that calf, and because we mated the goats, so we knew that milk would be coming. So now what we found is a lot of people have to put quite a bit of effort in to keep the long grass and rank weeds and everything down coming into fire season. The cow, you don't. You just put them where you want and they mow it perfectly.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. Nothing's more than an inch high.
Yeah.
When that cow's done. So
that's been really cool, the transformation of the property. It was just the first 2 summers was just really long grass because even though we had the pigs on there, they trampled it down a bit, but they don't eat grass really. So they didn't tromp it down as well as the cows. Like they just sort of had one area where they go back and forth to.
Yeah.
The first 2 summers we had that long grass, whereas this summer we were able to. We were talking about earlier. There's quite a lot of poisonous snakes around where we live, tiger snakes in particular. But this summer, everything was chopped down. We were actually able to walk around the property without shoes on, which we weren't be able to do before because it was all cleared.
Yeah.
And it's just such a relief as well, not having any of that fuel like right near the house. And
Yeah, the
Totally.
cow really defueled it.
Yeah.
We defueled it by cutting up some blue gums.
yeah, that first year on the property, we had to remove a lot of trees. That was one of
Yeah.
the major things we did.
Yeah. We made the place inhospitable for foxes with that cow.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, that's interesting.
the fox coming a long way now
Right.
because there's no cover.
Yeah, we had loads of, because we free range our chickens so much, we had loads of fox attacks even in the day. Well, not loads, but we had a lot of fox attacks during the day the first year that we were here. And they just really subsided. And we also got dogs, so they helped too.
Yeah, me and the dog took a little bit of a toll on the foxes, but I think the cow has helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Our permaculture teacher was telling us about foxes in particular. They like having a clear access to what they're going to do. And so he prevents it or discourages it by having lots of fences and things to where his chickens are.
Mm-hmm.
So he free ranges them still in that area, but it's like that area of free ranging. And because the fox can't get clear, quick in and out access, it deters them a lot. So I think understanding animal behaviors really plays into, helping the animals you do have and figuring out what the animals that you want to breed and have need as well. And super important.
We found that once, like our goats are in an electric fence and the bottom one's quite low for small pigs. And we found once we put that in, there was never a fox incident inside that electrified area.
Mm.
Yeah, right.
Because like when you're trying to get a fox, they're always like, oh, you must make it as natural as possible. When I was younger and I trapped foxes, I don't think you can now. But, you've got to like really, really be careful. Ooh, you mustn't put the fox off. Well, getting, like 2 joules through the nose puts them off. They're just like, what?
Yeah.
And they just don't come back. Like they don't want anything to do with that electric fence any more than our dog does. Like any dog that hits an electric fence just does not come near it again.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
how'd you find the learning curve when you first got to the property?
I'd say it's pretty steep.
Yeah.
So I mean, our immediate thing to do was to take out some of the large blue gums,
which you'd had a bit of experience in.
Sydney blue gum. So I'd had a bit of tree work experience. It was 20 years ago. So there was a bit of a learning curve there. Of like I knew what I wanted to do, but I had to sort of go around my now a bit older, lack of strength, lack of fitness compared to when I was a professional tree worker.
Yeah.
And then also, we were just we had no idea. Like part of the thing with getting animals was also, can we make it work? Is it going to work?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
And that was the thing. We tried a lot of things. We just we just wanted to go straight into it. So it was like, let's just try everything and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And so there was some animals that didn't really work out. Like we had ducks for a while and we had geese for a while, and they don't really work on our property. It was just too hard. There's some really nice properties, neighbouring properties with beautiful dams. So they just kept running away to the neighbours' properties. I mean, we'd clip their wings.
Don't blame them.
Run up and fly. I mean, we've got a dam, but it's not very nice compared to the dams. The neighbouring dams are really lush. And so, it just didn't work out for us with waterfowl.
They could always see like our immediate neighbour's nice little marron dam. They wanted to get to it all the time because it just had really nice grass all around and their grazers. And I was like, I'll just walk them up to our dam. But I walked them up to our dam because it's on a hill. They could see a vista of this. There's a wetland, there's all these other dams, and they was just like, woo! I was like, that didn't work.
Yeah. Work out.
Yeah, so geese didn't work, ducks didn't work, rabbits didn't work. Pigs worked really, really great. Milking was I just didn't want to put all the time and effort into building a proper milking stall.
Yeah.
So I did put a bit of training into halter training the cow and things like that, which is fine. But she wasn't like 100% restrained like you would with a head bale.
Sure.
But even still,
I think she still would have been
pooed
and weed everywhere. So
yeah.
I mean, goats are a bit easier to train. Well, from our experience, but it's also because this cow wasn't like a premium Jersey cow that's been like halter trained from birth and always going to be a Jersey cow. She was actually just a paddock cow.
Yeah, she was just some scummy old
Yeah,
cow.
she's like half Jersey, half something else. Maybe Angus, maybe We don't really know.
Pick a number.
Yeah. So she wasn't, like an actual purebred Jersey cow that had been trained and ready to be a milking animal. She did tolerate being milked, and you built up quite a bond with her. But
there was a pitfall there too, because like to build a cow just responds to food. Like I had never factored in how much cows love food.
Like a pig.
Like a pig. And
right.
And a goat. Actually, it's all animals.
They're all addicts. But yeah, so I got to the point where I was feeding her out of a bucket grain and all sorts of stuff like that. Real cow crack. And she did. She was just like a crack addict. She'd see me moving around the farm and she's got this real howl. It's not a like a nice mellow. It's like made life intolerable on the farm for about 3 months, because like you just couldn't go outside without she'd just bellow and bellow.
She would want the grain all the time. She actually was addicted to grain, and it took like months for her to wean her off the grain when we stopped milking her. And like now, finally, she doesn't yell at us anymore. But there was like months where she just every time we walked out of the house, she'd just yell at us for grain. So.
She'll still,
man.
She'll still come up with scratches and everything.
Yeah.
She's not addicted to the grain anymore. Which is good.
So beware the tactics you use.
So the milking goats, that's a big commitment. How have you found that?
It is a big commitment. I think about this all the time, but I also you get a lot back with goats. They're very affectionate and very lovely creatures, and you can dive into the goat world if I reckon they're really something that you can try out and see if you like it or not. There's a lot of information and resources online, and we've just found them a lot more manageable than the cow. They jump up on a milk stand. They're your size, so you can kind of maneuver them a lot better. They're like the cow. They respond really well to grain, so you can lead them around with grain when you just first get them. So it is a big responsibility making them every day. We were doing kid sharing when the kids were on the mums for the first few months, so that kind of takes the pressure off having to milk them every day. But in the end, main dominant goat, she was making so much milk that I had to milk her anyway, even with the kids on her. You can't really leave your property for more than a couple of days if you have milking animals.
There is a reason why urban life was attractive to so many people, and they left rural life. It wasn't just that they were shanghaied into going working in factories. It's just that it is easier to go and live in suburbia. So
have these conversations, because people idealize living on a homestead too. There's that flip side of it too, where you have this kind of community where people want to buy property and do all these things, but to have these conversations so people are fully aware that if they're going to do this is the commitment that comes with it as well, or what it takes as well to kind of be on land and be responsible for animals.
That was an attractive thing of what we did with the caretaking, because when we were sailing around, we were like, you can read Joel Salatin. There'll be a path that most Westerners go down. I bet it involves Joel Salatin watching a bunch of YouTube videos, gardening and all the rest of it. Definitely Bill Mollison and all this stuff. He probably gives you fair warning, like there's a lot of planning involved. But you'll have some idealised vision that's probably not realistic like 5 years later. So when we first were just on the boat, we were like, wouldn't it be wonderful to be like running a profitable chicken enterprise with a milking cow on 40 acres? And now
and some pastured probably beef for us.
But now we know that like if we were, an ideal block of land for us would actually be cheap marginal land with a lot of stuff that doesn't need to necessarily be fenced or managed, with a really intensive, say, quarter acre around the house, and then goats and pigs just like contained with electricity in that real marginal land. Whereas ideally I was like, wouldn't it be, it'd be lovely to have all these like 3 beautiful dams you'd go swimming in. You don't swim in your dam.
No, you don't. I grew up on a farm. We actually did swim in our dam, but only because my parents were too busy to take us to the beach.
I think we wouldn't swim in our dam, and the dams that you do, people tend to import a lot of gravel to deal with the leeches.
We had eels. They'd freak us out when we'd swim in the eels. Swim up next.
But yeah, so I think that the caretaking thing was a really good one, because before you put money down, you get to try it.
Yeah.
And when we were stopping sailing, there was another friend of ours. He was just telling me, "Oh no, I grew up on a farm. It sucks." And I'm like, "No, like I'm taking your warnings on board."
Yeah.
And some of the things are just incredibly rewarding. Some of the things are incredibly frustrating. So it's just like any other aspect of life.
And I love how you guys are managing your food too, how you're storing it, how you're, providing for yourselves. I think it's so admirable, and it's something that we want to delve into more here at our property too. Can you talk us through that a little bit and how you started kind of doing that?
Yeah, I think we got interested in like the old-timey homesteading more in the States than anything, wasn't it? I mean, it was traditionally done everywhere, but the tradition continues on.
Well, before we even got to preserving food, like we've both been interested in good food, like good quality food for a long time, and I've been suspect on industrial oils for a long time. So I've been a big butter fan. Remember what's his name? Peter Russell Clark. Do you know that guy? I'm showing my age. Okay. So,
sorry, Troy.
years and years and years ago, he was like, "Oh, you got to eat butter," and I was totally down with it. I was like, "Margarine, it's not real." And so we've both been right into those real foods. And it seems like it's made it's like really hit the mainstream now, which is great to see.
Yeah.
But to make those choices is getting easy now, but it's always been difficult. So it's taken a bit of engagement to get that done. And then sailing, everything's about preserving your food.
Yeah. Or having it fresh, all the seafood you guys would have been eating. And
well, you have to carry your legumes and everything in seed form and then sprout it if you want it fresh. So that's preserving food might just be not doing anything to it.
Yeah.
Like when I'm talking about seeds and stuff like that. And then we tried smoking some fish and stuff. But yeah, when we got onto land, then anything to make a really top class product is just music to Pascale's ears. So of course charcuterie.
Yeah.
And now she's already looking at all the things that you can do with like quality beef, like all the different types of preserved, because you can make sort of like a pancetta and stuff like that with cows, brizzolas and all sorts of things.
Since we've gone on the land, like I've become really obsessed with like ancestral eating, traditional eating, and like things like bone broths and things like that. So because we're breaking down our own animals, we can get all of the goodness from the bones and bits and pieces, and it's really amazing to see like our chicken carcasses, for example, compared to a commercial chicken, even a pasture-raised organic chicken. It's just not the same as our like free-ranging chickens that have run around their whole lives. They are really tough, so you have to cook them low and slow, but the flavour is like so good and the broth is insane.
Yeah, their bones are
very hard. Like you can't break them. They are so hard. And so
so the broth that comes off those chickens when you finally when you boil those bones down, it's been incredibly good. And we've got a little baby there, and you can just see.
She loves her broth. She's like, broth? Yeah.
Yeah, but you can just see like the condition of her skin and the shine on her hair and stuff like that. It's, I think we're doing right by her. I feel good.
It must spur you on having her, like to do all those things. But does it also come with its challenges, having to manage your time and capacity, I guess, to do some of your homesteading things?
Oh, I guess she slurps up a lot of time. A lot of it isn't necessarily like, oh my God, the baby's keeping me so busy. Sometimes you just want to sit and stare at what she's doing, and that takes up time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had to make some changes.
We're definitely not producing as much content as we were before we had Constance, our daughter.
Yeah, we're not making as many videos.
So we were making like a video a week. Now we're making a video a fortnight. And so scaling it back like that has meant that we've been able to keep up with all the homesteading and all the chores with the animals.
Yeah.
And so Troy's actually gone back to work, so to speak. I mean, he was still working. He was making videos more, but now he's started a new side business.
I just started a business that allowed me just a decent hourly rate to be away. If I have to be away from my family, it's nice to be remunerated. So and so that allows us enough time. But we don't have the pigs, so I'm not doing daily bills with electricity.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What's the most time-consuming thing, do you think?
With animals?
Yeah, like on the property in general. Like, is it the animals or
It
an
used to
animal
be,
in
yeah.
particular?
Well, yeah, you wouldn't think it, but like to milk a cow, to go and fetch it, to milk it, to clean up and everything else like that is 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, for me, the goats, I do the chickens and the goats at the same time.
The
So
milking's 15 minutes.
the
but
milking's
everything
quick,
else
but
is-
it's everything
Yeah.
else. Animal management is like moving them and like feeding them, getting them hay. Some days I'll cut them browse if I have time. So like we've got lots of like feral species in like the bush block right next to our property, so I can go and cut them a whole lot of branches and things like that. So all that sort of stuff takes at least an hour every morning for me to goats. So I have to set aside an hour to do the chickens and the goats.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that would come as a surprise for someone that's
anyone.
used to a rural life. They just go, that's part of the farm economy. Why do you think we get up at 5? But we don't get up at 5. So
Oh, we were getting up at 5 with our little one. Our little boy used to get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning.
Yeah, we had it, but we've
Oh,
gotten through it, and it's dark now. It's really dark until
yeah,
like
it helps.
7.
Yeah, it helps for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do spend time in the garden as well. We didn't even really talk about the garden, but
I know. I feel like I could speak to you guys for the 2 hours. Oh man.
yeah.
yes, the garden, that was another thing. So we couldn't like really apply any permaculture principles to it apart from like maybe no dig or something like that.
Yeah.
Just because we're working with what's already there, we've got no control over earthworks. Don't have we can't do big sort of changes to the place. And where the veggie garden is, that's just where it is, even though it's like quite a walk from the house.
But it's probably the best spot in terms of sunlight on the property.
Yeah.
So this property has a southern aspect, so we don't get we don't get that much sun in winter, and so where the garden is like one of the sunniest spots on property.
Yeah.
That is good.
With all the jobs, like you've got the food growing and the animals, do you think it's realistic for somebody who still has a 9 to 5 to live that kind of lifestyle?
I would say a 9 to 5 definitely wouldn't prevent you from growing all of your plant food.
I think you could still do the animals maybe, but you would probably have to be really into it and not have many other activities going on in your life outside of work. So like your weekends, you would have to spend time bonding with your animals because you're not there all day, Monday to Friday. And the mornings you would have to put aside that hour to look after them. And when you get home from work, you probably have to put, another half an hour to an hour to just make sure they're okay. That's if you want dairy animals. I've noticed when we've kept the chickens locked up for a few days at a time and there isn't enough like material on the ground there, it just starts to really get stinky. So you need to be on top of managing like if you're not going to have them out on pasture and things like that, then you actually need to be putting aside a few hours every fortnight to be, topping up their enclosures, managing that as well, which is a really great resource because if you're into gardening, we've basically grown our garden just from all of those animal, the bedding and all of the straw and everything. It's just amazing, like just to be able to pick up big IBC, so those bulk carriers of all of the clean out from the goat enclosure and the chicken enclosure and just dump that on the garden and you just grow amazing food.
Yeah, a lot of people come and say, "Oh, you're growing it down here, and the soil must be great." It's like, no,
nah, really anything. But yeah, just putting all of that animal input over 3 years has just built really great soil in the garden. So.
Yeah,
I think knowing what I know now, going back to what you questioned about 9 to 5, I think if you had small animals tractoring over the property, like contained cages that move, so you don't have to worry about pests.
Yeah.
So chickens, tractoring.
Chickens and rabbits, I think, would be viable in your tractor. And then
you could probably have a dairy goat, but you just have to be willing to give up that time.
Well, you can walk a goat. So there's no reason to have a dog. You can walk your goat. And they do.
Why not?
We take us for walks. You might have seen it on the videos.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think it's just good to talk about because especially people who want to get into it, there could be that transition period where, you're still working a 9 to 5 because you might want to find a different job locally or transitioning to online work. So it's, you know, it's nice to kind of know that there are those kind of, okay, we can go from a tractor and then you can maybe free range them when you have more time, and those stepping stones to getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think so. So just start with those small universal animals that are just everywhere, that you go to any village, anywhere outside of the West, and you're always going to see chickens. If they're a bit richer, then you might see a pig. And if they're a bit richer again, you'll see a milking animal like a goat. I think starting small, the other thing, and it's an important one for people, especially Western people, is just get your head around that you're killing your food, because you might go from a chicken to a pig and go, oh, that's it.
That's your line.
Yeah, I've been patting it all year. I go and talk to it when I'm feeling glum, you know. And then slaughter time comes, I can't do it. Maybe you can, like you might be like me, but then you might reach a threshold where you're just like, all right, I'm done. I'm sad on the day, but I'll still do it just because I eat meat. So it's just that's just the psychic cost of what we do.
Yeah.
So people need to be aware that they're going to see how the sausage is made.
Yeah. But like all the learnings and growth that comes from that too.
Yeah, you just got to get your hands dirty that one day. Yeah. And it's going to have a cost on you if you're a thinking human. But I think most people, if they're making the jump from a workaday life and they're going rural, they might struggle with the day they got to put a bullet in a pig.
Did you have anybody come help you guys to butcher them and like teach you, or did you just do a lot of reading and research?
Had the neighbour come around with his 410 because I don't have a firearm.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of research. We thought about getting it's actually really hard to find butchers that can come and show you, or that can come and butcher for you. There's not that many here in the Southwest. They exist, but they're very busy. And
it's a fair bit of money. It's a fair bit of money as well.
It's a bit of money.
Once you've got that skill, once you've made those mistakes, once you've done it a couple of times, you do have it.
Awesome. So there's lots of learning to be had on your YouTube if anybody wants to go and have a look.
Can I also I'll give a shout out to one of our friends, Charles Altway. We've done a couple of videos at his place now about syntropic forestry.
Agroforestry, yeah.
Now, what's the video called, the first one?
Syntropic.
Just look for syntropic on our chat anyway.
Yeah.
But he has done an amazing food forest on a very small.
But also tried different experiments too.
Yeah.
He's got like a paddock one, an orchard one, and then he's got a really intensive, amazing, like 1/4 acre food forest.
Yeah, so that's definitely something. Syntropic forestry has sort of captured our imagination a little bit. We don't have the opportunity to do it, but that is something that would be great to do. It's very intensive.
Yes.
It can mitigate your fire risk. So
we're kind of doing like a food hedge based on syntropic practices.
Oh, cool.
Our own kind of version of it. So it's a mix of like natives and edibles with all the different layers and stories in it. Yeah, so that's kind of
that video out. He has a permaculture background, so he was teaching the permaculture design course for like 15 years or something.
Yeah, cool. We've got a biodynamic cattle farm just down the road from us, and they do a lot of not just biodynamics but syntropic courses, and you can just go there for the weekend and learn about it. So I've been to one of their courses. They were really good. I
wonder if you'd like to reach out to our friend Charles and ask him about an interview.
For
sure.
He's very well spoken and he's much more knowledgeable than we are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I feel like I could sit here and speak to you for another hour on all kinds of things. You've got so much going on in your world, especially some of your cooking, Pascale. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's been really great to talk to you, Alysse. Just in case, I don't even know if we mentioned the name of our channel. It was called Free Range Sailing when we were sailing, but then we changed it to Free Range Living once we moved on land. So we've got all the sailing videos there, but then also all the videos of us homesteading now. And then we've sort of got this sub-series of Troy. He's building a small dinghy. And also we've been cruising around and interviewing other really inspirational farmers
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and good luck to your family.
Yes.